Hey, and welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. Today's guest is Kim Gravel. Now, Kim has sold in the last year $200 million in her products all over the world, quite literally. And so she actually not only just became the business side, but the life side of understanding how it took her 3 decades to get to this level, but the humanity behind it, understanding what stages she went through to understand how to collect confidence. So if you're a person who goes, man, I want to do these things of making more money, having more free time, getting a better job or a promotion, there's a lot of things that are possible for us we don't always step into because we lack confidence or don't understand that we've always had confidence, but we lost it along the way and haven't picked the pieces back up. And today we talk about this. We unpack our experiences and where we saw some little nuggets and some connections there, but also a lot of ideas of what you can do to implement really actions into your life to create that again, to find your space, to do what we all want to do is find our calling. Because if you don't know your calling, life gets heavy. We can lighten life and find a way to have joy in life if we learn how to collect confidence. So let's dive into today's episode and find out more. All right, so we're diving back in. Welcome to the show. Today we have a cool guest that we're going to get a chance to dig into the head, the heart, the soul, all the things, because she's done some amazing things. I just told you about the amazing things. But to be able to be at the place she's at now, it's a person to listen to because people who have done something are the ones you want to listen to, right? The ones who have gone through the ups and downs, things we don't know about. And so today as we hop in, we're going to kind of unpack this person's heart. So welcome to the show, Kim. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Anthony.
Well, thank you for joining me from hot Atlanta, Georgia. I've been a couple times. I like it out there. I'll pass on the weather, though. I'm a California guy. The humidity can
Well,
get
I
me.
mean, it's hard to beat your weather. Okay, let's get honest.
Yeah,
It's hard to beat. But I
yeah.
just you know, what we say, opened up my pool today, so we're getting there, right?
There you go. My pool's still
Yeah,
cold,
yeah,
though. It's a little different. Mine's 51 degrees today. There
yeah.
was no pool open for me. But also we have solar for our pool, which means that the water runs through this little thing. So when the sun comes out, it heats the
Uh,
pool, which is odd, right?
that
Because then it's like, all right, well, the pool gets hot in the summer. Like, but I want it cold in the wintertime, hot in the wintertime. Like,
right,
that's what I
right.
wanted. Not when it's hot outside already. It's kind of crazy. Let's dive into the episode. I always start by asking a question. It can go
All
wherever
right.
you choose to take it, wherever your heart feels to take it. Here's the question. I'm walking around Atlanta, Georgia. I sit down at this coffee shop. This beautiful woman sitting next to me. It's you. I don't know you. You don't know me. For some reason, you feel compelled to turn and start talking to me. In your opinion, why should I listen to you?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? I've been around the block a time or two. I've been up, I've been down, I've been, broke, I've been blessed. In the journey that I've gone through, this collecting of confidence throughout my entire career and life is something that is worth listening to. And I'm going to tell you why, because we live in a world full of experts with absolutely no experience. I'm telling you, there's an expert on every corner, but you've got to find people who've done what you want to do or at least been successful at something that you want to be successful at, and those are the people we need to listen to. I mean, that so if you say, Kim, why should I listen to you? Well, if you want to start a brand, a business, get in television, and you know then I'm worth listening to, at least for a few nuggets, if nothing else.
Yeah, I'm sure more than a few. And I agree. I tell people I literally all the time state this exact statement of you should not be telling people how to run the race until you've crossed some finish lines. Because then you're
Hello.
just out there running around. The idea
Right.
is do some things, get to the point. But if the idea is collecting confidence, which is your book we'll
Yeah.
get to soon, the idea is that whenever I think about someone collecting something, stamps, snails, shells, whatever it is, right? At some point you didn't have that. And it prompted you to start collecting that. Can you take us to a point in time where confidence wasn't part of your collection of human traits or skills?
Well, I'm going to turn it on its head a little bit, because I do believe
All
we're born into this world with a confidence and a calling. And I think as
right.
we go through life, these ups and downs, these mistakes, these messes that happen to us or that we cause for ourselves, our confidence is getting chipped away. I say in the book, and I mean this, the world is a confidence sucker. Okay.
Yeah.
But through the messes that we have in our lives, these lived out things that we have, things happen to us, we make mistakes, whatever, those end up becoming our message. So
Mhm.
along the life's journey, as I'm looking back at all the mistakes, the regrets, the losses, the wins, all of that in one big pot, it's my message now. So for when we say collecting confidence, it's basically like you're just gathering back up the pieces
Mhm.
that have been broken and chipped away in your whole entire life, and you're putting back into your soul this confidence that you were born with. You know, Anthony, when we were young, I don't know about you, but when you're young, you're fearless. I mean, I
Yeah,
would
you
go
are.
down to the creek. I was
Mhm.
never afraid. I'd look in the mirror,
Yeah.
singing my hairbrush, and think I could be Whitney Houston. I mean, the world was my oyster. And little by little, comparison, uh, mistakes,
Mhm.
problems, it just chipped all that away. So
Trickle in.
this book is it does.
Yeah.
So this book is about a journey and that I've been on, but also you, the reader, have been on as well, and how you've been collecting your confidence. And some of us don't even know that we have it, but we got it.
Mm. I agree we do. I think there's some part of us that has like that brazen craziness to just go do things, right? The
We
picture I
do.
have in my head is like I got a basket. It's got, I don't know, let's say it's sunflower seeds in it. And I'm dropping seeds as I walk, and then I'm over here like picking them up as I put them
Right.
back in, but they keep on going out. And I think there is
So
something
hard.
to that, right? Because you can still develop confidence, but even the most confident people still have areas that's being drained without even realizing it sometimes.
Well, I don't think you can be fully confident if you are not walking in your calling. I think we're living in a world of comparison and slightly imposter syndrome. I know for me, again, I'm no counselor, I'm no psychologist. I'm
Right.
just
I
telling you
agree.
my
Yeah.
lived experience. And so
Hmm.
for me, I think what happens is we are always looking at other people and trying to do what other people do and emulate. And I know when I decided, owned, and started walking in this calling in my life, which is to edify. I know, bar none, that is what I'm called to do, is to build up.
Hmm.
Period.
Hmm.
Build businesses, build people, build communities, build relationships. That
Hmm.
if I'm building something, I'm happy. I
Hmm.
can wear that hat. And that's where I get my confidence. So everything
Yeah.
that is, if a business opportunity comes to me, if it's not the building up of whatever, it's not for me. So
Hmm.
I only walk in things that are in my calling. And that's where I think our confidence can originate. You know, we talk
So
about that in the book too. Everybody's got a calling.
well, how do you find it? Because I know there's callings that we all have in our life, and sometimes the calling can be overshadowed by I got to pay the bills or got to do this or I'm here. How does somebody one find it to approach it and actually pursue it?
Well, in the book, we talk about how it's been this common thread throughout your whole entire life. I can trace back
Mm.
when my calling was sure and when it was um, on display. Of course, I was in the fifth grade.
Mhm.
I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but thinking back now, I can look at that moment and say, "Oh, that's what I was doing." It was my fifth grade talent show, my fifth grade talent
Mhm.
show, and I started an air band called Rare Edition. Just hang with me for a minute. I'm going somewhere with this.
I'm hanging.
So
We're
so
getting it.
I got four of my little girlfriends on the playground at Arcado Elementary, and I gathered them
Mhm.
all up and said, "Look, y'all gonna be in a band, and I'm gonna sing." And they're like, "Okay,
Mhm.
okay." Now this is back in the '80s, so there was no
Right.
Amazon Prime, there was no cell
Mhm.
phone. Google it. Where can you find it? I went and had my mother drag me all around town to get a bass guitar, a keyboard, a set of drums, and a electric guitar. I made all
Mhm.
the girls' outfits. I made my outfit, and I found it as an album, and the flip side had an instrumental. It was Xanadu, "Keep Me Suspended in Time." And that night at that
Okay.
talent show, I assembled all of that, and we won that talent show. But I walked
Did
away
you?
thinking,
All right.
yes, we did. But I walked away, Anthony, thinking, oh,
Good.
I'm going to be a singer.
Mhm.
That's not what was for me. I was a builder.
Mm.
I built that. I made that. I harnessed that. I managed that. All of that came into play in the fifth grade. You can trace your calling back to as early as the earliest memory of your childhood. You just have to do the work. You have to look at that threaded needle and go all the way back to that. Because look,
Yeah.
I go and speak everywhere. Speak to women's groups, speak to community groups, speak to a lot of people. And I say, how many of you think you have a purpose? Everybody goes, hello, I do.
Hmm.
Put your hands down. How many of you know what it is? Crickets. That's the biggest get in life, is to know why we're here.
That's what, yeah, that's what I want to know. I'm listening to the story going, all right, she had this ability to put this group together. And you could have
Mm-hmm.
thought it was going to be
Mm-hmm.
performing, maybe not singing, right? But where did the thread kind of start to gleam and it goes, oh no, building is it? Like, where did that turn over? Was that later in life? Was that quick after?
A
Where did
lot
you figure?
later.
Because I'm sure you get there must have been more points along the journey where you noticed this same
Yes.
thing. And in hindsight, you went and put it together.
Yes. I can tell you story after story in my life, but I really
I'm
didn't
sure.
get it till I was like 40
Yeah.
years old. I have been
Okay.
chasing the wrong things in my life, not just the wrong men, but the wrong things, the wrong career, my
Mm-hmm.
entire life. And this is, I had an interview the other day, and it was a little shocking because she said to me, this young girl, she was in her early 30s, and she said, I see all the things that you do, and I feel like I need to be doing more. And I said, well, you know why that is, don't you? And she just was shocked because we were just starting the interview. And I said, I
Mm-hmm.
can do 50 million things as long as I'm building something, and can only do one thing poorly when I'm not in my calling. When you figure out
Mm-hmm.
what you are put on this planet to do, super abundance of energy, resources, opportunities open up for you. It's almost like a light switch goes off in your soul, because
Mm-hmm.
you can't just be about business. And you can't just be about creating things for monetary gain. It had For it to be truly successful and fulfilled for your life, Anthony, it has to be something inward that ignites in you. And I know that
Mm-hmm.
might sound cheesy or whatever, but I can only tell you
I
about
get it.
my lived experience.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think I can attest to the same thing. There's something like when you find
Yeah.
for this, what I do here, podcast, talk,
Yes.
speak, same aspect. Like, I can't figure out what else I'm supposed to do. I'm trying to think about like, what else could I do? Could I go like work at the grocery store, be like a CEO somewhere at some company, wear a suit all day? It doesn't fit in the role of what my humanity is, right? But I know
Hmm.
where I found that out and how I was able to figure it out. Like, it was a journey, because I think it's always a gift to find that.
It is. It
And
is.
I don't know how to always explain it to people. Like, I have my own view of what I would say, like, here's how you go do it. I say you should find what you're curious about. The curiosity
Hmm.
leads to a passion of energy without freaking out. And you'll love doing it. The passion creates this push to go forwards, and you start going
Yes.
and doing things. And all of a sudden you stumble into a purpose, like the calling. It's like a pothole of purpose, I call it. But it starts with curiosity. What am I looking at that I don't do? Because my friends go, you're weird if you think about that. Like, that's what I found is
Right.
kind of an entry point sometimes.
But it's been with you all along. It's not something that's
Yeah.
developed. It is put inside of you from the beginning of your first breath. I'm telling you, it's been inside of you, and it haunts us. I often say your
Mm,
calling is like those scary movies. The call is coming from inside the house. It's like that. But that's
mm,
that's why that's why we're always searching for that thing. That's why everybody knows they've got it, but don't know what it
mm.
is. It
Yeah.
haunts us, and it's always wooing and calling us. And I,
Hmm.
I think you're right. It does start with curiosity, Anthony. It really does. And it starts with something when you're doing it, you're exhausted, you're tired, you're working hard, but you can continue to do it for another 72 hours, weeks, months, years.
Effortless
That's how
effort.
you know. Effortless effort.
Mm.
Bam.
That's what I've always found to be. That's what I do. Because I think when you get passionate about something, you'll do that thing, and people are like, "How are you still doing that?" I go, "Oh, I just like doing it, right?" And
You're
someone
doing it.
else thinking about. I had people do that. What happened was someone goes, "Man, like how often do you work?" And I go, "Man, I'm kind of always on. Like if I'm in,
Yeah, yeah,
especially
me
with
too.
clients, I'm always here, you know." And then they go like, "Well, but after a while, well, I said I'm with my family and I'm present there, but like my brain still holds on to stuff." And they go, "Man, that must suck." And I go, "Oh,
Mm-mm.
interesting. You just told me about how you feel about what you're doing, because I don't feel
Right.
that about what I'm doing." When you
But
think
you
of
you
work,
know,
you're thinking of that. Like, I'm gonna start there.
Anthony, you're so right. And I knew I was going to absolutely love you because you have this passion and energy. And I can definitely see what your calling is. I mean, it's like so obvious to other people too sometimes that we can't even see it. But I will tell you
Mm,
this. I love to see people like yourself who know exactly what they're put on this earth to do and are doing it. And look, it doesn't matter what level of success we all are at, because success is success to a lot of people. But to put your head down at night and know that you have made a contribution for what you're called to do, there's no high greater than that, in my opinion. None.
Mm. I'd agree. It's a different kind of way of living. It's not as there's no drug that'll do it, no friendship, no party, no song, no
Mm-mm.
nothing. It's a different kind
That's
of
that's the
internal going on.
void. That's the void we're always trying to fill. And I'll tell you
Yeah,
this: calling is not what you do; it's who you are.
I
Our
agree.
identity,
Yeah.
we're placing a lot of our identities in what we're doing. If we are
Mhm.
a CEO, if we are a professional athlete or an award-winning whatever, or have 400,000 on TikTok or whatever your thing is, we think, oh, that is success, and that's what we do is not who we
Mhm.
are. Who
Yeah,
we are is what is our contribution. What we are is our own DNA that we add value to the world.
I agree.
And we
I
get it
explain my work.
confused.
We
We
do.
get it
My work's in
confused.
identity. It's actually I wrote a book on it called Identity
Mhm.
Shift, and it's funny you're saying that because I think I read that that's a big part that you actually talk to. But I look at it kind of like there's the fruit of the tree, and when the tree has this fruit it produces, we all feel like the fruit. The fruit of the labor is the career, the job. The I was a professional athlete, right? And the fruit falls off, and I feel like the fruit. I can hang for a little bit, but eventually I feel rotten because I don't have that. And I go, oh, you've never been the fruit. You've always been the tree.
Mm.
The tree produced it. Go
Mm.
back to the tree. And the tree, you produce more sweeter and more abundant fruit in time.
It's a never ending harvest, never ending. If you're
No,
and it
always
doesn't
great.
have a time, it doesn't have a timestamp either. I mean, you're never too late, too
Yeah.
early. It's right in its own time, and it's never too late to start. That's why I say start where you are to become what you're meant to be. Because people think they got to clean it up, they got to get the education, they got to do this
Mhm.
thing. Yeah, you got to do the work. I'm just discounting work. I work hard every day, all day, but when you're doing it in your calling, if when your calling is the foundation, there's a confidence that
Mhm.
comes from that that nobody can take from you.
Yeah,
Like you might
I'd
say,
agree.
Kim, I don't like the way you talk. I don't like the way you look. I don't like the way you smell. I don't like what you sell. But but
Mhm.
you can't speak to the calling because I already know that. And I'll be like, well, honey, that's just bless your heart because you
Mm.
don't know. You can't
Yeah.
speak to the calling that I know I have on my life. And when you have that kind of that grounding, that's where that confidence comes from. It comes
Mhm.
from knowing why you're here and who you
I
are.
think there's a piece of that journey too that I know is, let's put it this way. I think when you first find the calling, like for at
Mm.
least for me, in my opinion, when it took place, you lean into it and you lean to it. You do it ugly, you do it dirty, you kind of do it messy. We'll call it. It's not always perfect. The
Yeah.
feedback is always amazing, but when you love doing it, you keep on doing it. But there is a process and a journey of navigating through the people that were in your life that are currently in your life, and they know you to be in this box, and then you start seeking the calling, and the calling has you step out of the box. They go, hold on, I don't know you to operate outside that box. Get back in the
Hmm.
box. And what that looks like is,
Mm.
you sure you want to do that? What if you fail? What
Hmm.
if your
Hmm.
mom and dad gonna think? Those kind of conversations. How do you navigate those? Because I get them. I'm sure you have to have had them over the years.
Hmm.
When people poked
Mm.
you and they noticed you expanding and they go, oh, I don't know this Kim. I want to put Kim back in the place I know. How did you have the confidence, we'll call it, and keep the confidence, step out of that in the face of people who loved you, almost in unintentionally trying to keep you small?
Well, those are those little voices, right? Inside your head and in your world and in your life that are always talking and talking. But the thing is, your calling, they didn't hear. Okay. You heard it.
Mhm.
They didn't hear it. So you got to consider the source. So when people are clamoring and talking, and even your own hater inside your own head, which is bigger than all this going on out here, I'm telling you, people talk to themselves terribly. We beat ourselves up bigger than any hater on social media. But what you've got to do is you've got to slide over and let that voice of the calling be bigger than all the voices that are clamoring, like clanging cymbals, trying to get your attention and tell you can't, you won't, you. So when you are walking in your calling, that voice you've got to feed, you've got to amplify, you've got to listen to, you've got to move from that voice and not let the distractions of everything else be louder than that voice. Because I say this all the time: purpose is great, but calling is different. Calling is
Mhm.
not like a career; it's called a vocation. And when you look up the word vocation, it means a voice calling.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it truly is. It can be in every part of your life. It can be in your relationships. It could be in your, I mean, your calling comes through with your relationships with your children, with your parenting, with your career, with your business, how you interact with the community. And can you imagine, Anthony, if we all walked in what we were made to do, how I mean, it would just be like
You whole different world.
a
I guarantee you that.
whole
See?
different world. Yeah,
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
different world.
And I've always told people that like obviously I played athletes, did sports, played in the NFL. When you play at a high level, you're consistently bombarded with that, whether it's from teammates, from coaches, from the
Oh,
media, giving that influence. And you actually have to learn how to be very specific at what information gets to land in the head and the heart. If you don't do that, and you're going to get barraged
true.
with stuff, it's not going to help. But I remember at one point I had this realization that the loudest voice in the room gets heard. Right. So if I
Mm,
have in my head a room of voices and one says, "Hey, you're not that fast. Hey, you're not that smart. Like this guy's
mm,
paid more than you." The voice that goes, "Oh, you got this, man." If you just find the most of you, it gets drowned out. Like, he wants to be loud, but he's not because the rest of the voices get louder. I
mm,
realize that if I tune the other ones out, or if I just let that one get louder, I listen to it. So it's almost like the
mm,
voice is there. You're right, but how many of us are actually letting it be the loudest in the room? And I don't think a lot of people
right.
are at times.
Well, and also you got to be
Unf-
selfish. You got to be
You do,
selfish.
yeah, yeah. If you do it at times, sure.
And
Yeah.
I hate
But
to,
people like to hear
I
that.
know that,
People like to hear that.
but it's so true. I mean, look, y'all, we get
Yeah.
one time around this planet. We get one life. We get one life, and we
Mhm.
live it for others all the time. I mean, I'm a mom. You're a dad. Are you a dad?
Mhm. 3 kids,
And,
yeah. Got one in
yeah, three
college.
kids. So I mean, we have to be self-sacrificial a lot. But when I'm talking
Mhm.
about being a little selfish is you got to be into you and what you're doing. We're so
Mhm.
busy listening to those voices and looking at other people going, well, she's doing that. I'm gonna do this and do. You gotta be into what you're doing and get
Mhm.
excited about that and get a little selfish about it. You have to treat people with kindness, love, and joy. But the thing is, when you're living from the place that we're talking about, the overflow is unmatched. I can't tell you, you can't get confidence from somebody who doesn't have confidence.
True.
You can't go learn success from somebody who hasn't had it. I'm just telling you. That's just logical. So
Mhm.
for me, I always am in I take that time for myself. Even if it's just a reset for 10 minutes, even if it's just, okay, Kim, you're getting crazy. This is not what you want to do. Say no to this and do what you know to do. You have to get a little bit selfish.
I agree. What do you do with the people? That's not even bad because I think we've been talking a lot about the people. Because I agree, selfishness is one that's weird. It's like I
Yeah,
selfishly do things that make me happy, but me being happy makes me serve the rest of the world better. Which means, hey,
it
this is
does.
my hour, my time. I can't go hang out with you. I'm saying yes to me, not yes to you. Because if I say yes to you, I got to say no to me. Don't want to do that. But there are people, and sometimes we're afraid of this. There's people that are phenomenal suits for our minds. There are people who will, as opposed to
Mm,
blowing the fire out, they'll fan the flame and grow it. But
mm,
I find that sometimes we don't step into those zones because we're not that level. The comparison thing comes in. I go, man, I
it
want to be in
does.
that room, but I'm not with them yet. They're not going to accept me. What do you say to that mentality?
Go, say yes and go into the room. What's the worst thing they can
Yeah,
say
right.
is no.
Yeah.
You got to be bodacious. You've got to have, I say, a set of balls. You've got to stand up and walk into the room and know that even if you're not qualified to be there, even if you're not um, equipped to even do the job or the business or whatever, the athletic team, whatever you've got going on, you're there. Take the step. You got to live. You got to have experience. Experience is not always winning. I have learned so much from the failures than I ever did from the wins. And
Mm.
but there's so many people that are sitting there paralyzed to do anything. My best friend, we won an award at QVC, and she's there right now in Pennsylvania, and she's accepting the award for us in our business. And she's so scared to death to in front of a group of people, but she's been an integral part in making this business what it is in this particular category that we won, customer engagement. And she's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, you have to do it. I can't go. You have to do it.
Mm.
She pushed herself into doing it. And she just texted me before we got on this podcast. And she said, Kim, this is a game changer. And she's 50.
Mm.
This has just changed my whole perspective. I think it's time for me to step into this role in the company. I'm like, really? I've been telling you, telling you that for 3 years. But that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
You got to do it anyway.
Hmm.
Do it afraid.
I think it's like this. Yeah, you got to do it. I talk like it's like a kid who jumps off a cliff as a kid. And actually, talk about this. There's actually a framework I've created for this for the identity that you become. Right, there's this space. You have
Yes.
this vision of who you are. Leads to beliefs. Leads to thoughts. These thoughts lead to emotions. Emotions feed into actions. Actions create the outcomes that then tell me who I am, and it anchors me back in a loop. And so if I go into something, I go, oh man, I didn't take the action. Well, I had the negative thought, and the belief was funny. Thought was funny. Emotion was less than. I took a subpar action, subpar outcome. I go, see, it's who you are, Ant. But that moment you talked about there, it's like jumping off a cliff. Like your friend, she jumped off a cliff and said, "Let me go do this." Because now she goes, "Oh wait, I gave this. I call it unconfident action," which is interesting. We're talking about confidence. You take an unconfident action, full bore, but then you get a different outcome. You go, "Oh, wait, I could do this," and then it loosens a concrete of who you see yourself to be, and then your beliefs raise and your thoughts kind of cycle positively, and then all of a sudden you feel different. You take a bolder
You do.
action, and it's a loop that's positive. So for a lot of people who
Yes.
are like, I don't know how to change my calling, you just jump and you'd be surprised at
Jump.
who you become. Yeah.
Because look, the insecurities don't mess you up, they make you up. Insecurities, and we
Mm.
all have them, and these doubts and these and that's why, okay, I don't want to chase this rabbit, but if we go in here, let's go there. The reason
Let's
we
chase the
don't
rabbit. That's what we're
try,
here for.
the reason we don't try, and the reason we don't take the leap is not because it's not because we're scared of failing. We're scared of, oh my gosh, what if it works? I can't tell you the what ifs in my life that I have shrunk back, go, we self sabotage that way. We don't even know
Mhm.
we're doing it. Like, come on, she knows the company, she knows what to do. She knew she could get up there and do a small paragraph of a thank you for winning an award. But what? But what that she was afraid of, if I do go and I do the speech and I feel it and I live in it and walk in it, Kim's going to ask me to do it again.
Responsibility grows. Yeah.
That's truly what paralyzes us, is that what
I
if
get it.
it does work?
Hmm.
But y'all, that's where the adventure is in this life. I don't know about
Hmm.
you, Anthony. I can probably guess that you can probably get bored really easily if you're not stimulated or challenged. Especially, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you come across as a highly intellectual person, in my opinion.
Thank you. I'll actually fall asleep. I find if my brain's not doing something, I'll pass out because it
Yeah,
just gets
yeah,
tired. It's
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I can just tell by talking to you. I could just talk to you for hours. And and I'm kind of the street smart kind of gal. I love to analyze people. I love community. I love connection. And so for me, if I'm not stimulated in that way, I'm just like, okay, what are we talking about now? If we don't go deep or connect in some big way, I'm bored. But I have had to learn to really get still and quiet.
Mhm.
And in those moments, I can hear my life, and I don't mean to be cheesy, whispering to me, remember when you didn't do this? And remember when you should have done that? And I have learned more from just being quiet and learning from my own personal life, because I'm a plow through person, get her done. My advice to anybody that's going, Kim, what is my calling? If you could just get still for one brief little window of time a day and see what pop bubbles up. Because again, that calling is always pursuing you. We
Mhm.
just get too distracted to recognize it.
Yeah.
We
I
really
think I
do.
fully agree that it's a distraction that happens because there's a time in my life when I wasn't called very proud of the man that I was. And when you're in
Mm,
that space, a lot of people don't want to be quiet because when you're quiet, it means you're alone, but people don't like who they're alone with at times. And to
mm.
get to this point, I'm going like, this person is like you said, I haven't done this. I fell short of that. And like, I don't want to. So I will then go do things to distract myself. But when you get quiet, the voice does come out. The conversation gets very real. But if you can face that in that moment, I call it dark work. It's the work you do in the dark. That's that dark work is like figuring out what it is, that shadow work. And then now what do I do with that? But that's what allows you to shine in the light. Like I'm sure
Can
you
I
have
ask you
moments in
something?
time, like you said, oh
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you something though? When you said you used to be a man, you did some things you're not proud of. Do you regret those times? I'm just
Not at all.
curious.
I think that you have to do those. That's the whole part about walking through running a race. Because I think if you don't go through that, you run the race. If I was telling somebody at that time how to get to a certain place, I might have been like, you need to take a left turn, because I'd
Right.
taken a left turn. And as humans, we want to validate and align with our specific thoughts so we don't feel bad about ourselves. But I tell you, after finishing the race, I go, oh, I was supposed to have made a right back there. So if I told you to make a left, you'd have been wrong with me. But I now know to make a right. And so
Right.
the only way I noticed, because I went down the pathway. You're stuck at the starting line. I'm at the finish line yelling like, come on, let's go.
Come
But what if
on.
I stumble?
Yeah.
I got you. That's the idea, but that's necessary. There's a painting I have on my wall over here, and it says, smooth seas never made skilled sailors. And that's
Yeah.
what I live by in life.
That's my point. That's my whole point of this book, that it's been the ups and the downs. It's been the messes of life that has allowed me to have a message.
Yeah.
And I think we beat ourselves up, but what we need to do is learn from them, own it, and lean into
Mm-hmm.
it, because it's happened for a reason. All things work together for the good. All things work together for the good if we have that perspective.
Yeah, like all press
If
is
we have
good
that
press, even though it's
right.
not.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what I think.
true. That's true.
Let's try.
That's so
Let's
true.
try doing. Even then, it's so crazy how that does unfold to be true statements. Because some people get some crazy press, but in the long run, like, this is a bad example, but it's an example I think about, like Kanye West, and he was having his anti-Semitic
I
rants and doing
know.
what he's doing.
I know.
Very bad press. I mean, you find out it's 3-4 months later, all of a sudden Adidas is circling back like, hey, we get it. And it's almost like that was tucked away. It's very weird, but I go, it's because the press. It was
Right.
conversation. He's top of mind. It's like, gosh, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess all press somehow is good press, but it gets put out there. So as we think about this book, this Collecting Confidence, for you, what's like one of the big critical pieces that somebody who's in this space, let's say it's someone sitting here right now going, hey, Kim, it sounds good. I have stumbled 17 times. I haven't got up once. It sounds great, but I'm not you. I'm not Anthony. I don't have this. What's your message to a person? Because there were a lot of people I think it is the comparison, but it's also they're feeding off their proof, and their proof isn't very good. How do you talk to that human being?
Well, that's a lie. That's a lie. And it's a lie you're believing, and it's a lie that you're telling yourself, because everyone has this. If I can do what I have done in my life, everybody can. You're talking to a middle-aged Southern woman, minimal education, but I know who I am and what I'm called to do. That's the key, y'all. That's the key. Quit focusing on your mistakes, your past. Quit focusing on that, and thinking that's your stumbling block. It's not. It's your building blocks. It truly is. I
Yeah.
don't care what you've done in your life. And let me tell you something else. A person, and I love that you said Kanye, a person, because I believe he's a genuine, authentic person. And let me tell you what people respond to and love and like, good, bad, or ugly. People can accept what's authentic. And we
Yeah.
live in a plastic, makeup, fake world. Okay. I'm not down in social media because I love a good filter, and I will never not do a filter. So don't judge me for it. I'm not talking about that kind of fake. I'm talking about when you are faking who you are, you will always have self doubt. But when you are
Mm.
authentic in who you are, you might have what I call vulnerability remorse, or, authenticity remorse, but that soon fades. But you can never get over being fake. You will never be able to be confident in that. So I tell everybody, please be real and authentic. I much rather, there's people that I'm not fans of, but I can appreciate and respect, because they are
Yeah.
just who they are. They're just
Yeah.
authentically who they are.
I get it, in good or bad ways. It's funny as
It
I'm
is.
not like a political trained mind, but I look at a person like Trump, and he is very abrasive. It's regardless if you like his politics or not. I have things I like and dislike about him, but I will tell you this: there is a weird comfort in knowing that I know who he is. like
Right.
there's no.
Yeah.
It's not going to be all of a sudden like the
You know
tables
what you're
turn. And I
getting.
go, oh,
Yeah.
you know what you get, whether you like it or not. If
Right.
it's just let's go to the hypothetical, I dislike him, right? But at least I know what I'm getting with him. I'm not going to have a worry of like he's going to say something to do something different. So there's a thing where you're talking about, yeah, even if you dislike somebody,
Right.
if you have an authentic understanding of who they are, then you can go, okay, I can at least have this person operate in that space. So I can, and I think that's the thing we also have to realize too, is that that's how people see us. No matter good, bad,
Yeah.
or ugly, like you said, if you let that out of you,
Yeah.
people will like you, some won't. I look at that as you got to give people delineation of who you are. When you sit in the fence, it hurts your butt, and no one wants to sit there with you. When you
Right.
choose a side, they'll come hang out in your lawn. But you got to figure out who you are and share that with the world confidently.
Well, you do. And authenticity stands the test of time. So you can't
Yeah.
fake it but for so long. Now I've known people to fake it
Hmm.
20 plus years, but you will be found out. And you can't keep that up. And when I just decided, you know what, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. I love you anyway, and
Hmm.
God bless. And that is really what has been a game changer for me. It's the letting go of trying in the hustle culture.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a whole nother podcast because I don't
Yeah.
believe in the hustle
Definitely.
culture. I really don't. I think we are hustling ourselves into an early grave.
Yeah.
But your calling doesn't have to hustle. When you figure that out and you stand in that authenticity and confidently in that, opportunities find you. They do.
Hmm.
They do.
Yeah. It's magnetic.
It just
It
opens up.
it does, and it pulls people in. It's like I
It
think.
does.
First off, my brain thinks in these ways. My apologies, but it's I don't even, actually not
I
apologies. I
love it.
like it.
I love it.
Think about when I walk into cool rooms. Like I'm sure if I walked into a room and you're in that room, there's probably a certain allure and a draw to that people just are around you. They're hovering around. They want to hear you talk, and you're laughing and you're jovial. And there's a centeredness to you, and it makes people gravitate to that area. I don't even know who you are. If I didn't know, I'm like, but that person, like they're pulling you in, right? The only reason that's happening is because people, as humans, are watching someone be genuinely, transparently them. And that's what draws the people in. It draws in relationships. It draws in business. It draws in health. It draws in joy, right? But if you hinder that, if you stifle that, you don't put it out into the world, you don't get any of that drawn to you. You become the person who either repels it or you have it in you and you don't get the full potential of what it is. And you miss out on the great things in life. So you
And
do
you're
have to
robbing
let you
us.
out.
Yeah, and you're robbing us of knowing who you really are. I'm going to tell you something. There's no greater gift than relationships. And I tell people this all the time. People are networking, networking, networking. Yes, you've got to network. Absolutely, in business you have to network. But can you imagine doing it in a very genuine way? Some of the most amazing friendships and relationships I have are in my business networking, you know, uh, pool.
Fear.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it's such a blessing to be able to get on a Zoom call and do business and actually love the people I'm working with. I mean, it's not
Mm.
fake. We're not putting on, we're not trying to, nickel and dime this person and try to get one over on this person. I mean, I just said today, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that deal because I'm not making enough money.
Mhm.
I mean, I just said it just flat out. And when you're saying that to a Harvard MBA, it's hard for them sometimes to understand this
Mhm.
is she just this country girl telling me no? I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard. But I mean, some of
Mhm.
the best relationships I've had have been these direct, real conversations. Because with me, you know what you're going to get. I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make any money doing
Mhm.
that. But I love you to death.
Yeah.
Call me if you can work out the deal. Just being that
Yeah.
kind of authenticity of who you are. Now, that's not might not be how you talk and walk or whatever. That's how I represent because I just don't want people
Mhm.
to understand that this is just what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And if you don't
You have to
like
have a
it,
good
that's
foundation.
all right.
Yeah. And I
That's
think
all
that's the
right.
thing is I always look at now I'm a man of faith and not everybody loves Jesus.
Me
Like,
too.
so then I'm going
I
to,
love Jesus.
yeah.
I
It's
love
like
Jesus.
yeah, if the whole world is going to be that. So I do I fully agree with that. And I think there are times I do the exact same thing. I'm really good at saying no respectfully, right?
Yeah.
I don't do
Yeah.
it in a sense to make you feel bad, but I'm doing it in a way to let you know how I view me. And then actually, oddly enough, it brings a better value to you. When you
It
are able to
does.
say no, they go, wow, this person, because I think was it Lisa Nichols one time said, you must
Love
train
her.
other people to love you by how you love you. So I have to train you on what's acceptable to interact with me based on how I interact with me and how I hold my standards. Because if I don't do it, I can't expect you to do it. So if I take less than my potential, less than my value, well, then you're going to go ahead and give me less than my value. And I'm going to go, well, why am I not getting my full? Well, because you're letting people watch you take less than. So to give yourself
We
that level of like who I am, it's big.
and we settle for good. And we settle for good when great is just right around the corner. I can't tell you how
Mm-hmm.
many times I've tried to manipulate and make things happen and orchestrate, and it has been the worst failures of my life. I have learned to just sit back, do the hard work, you know, do the hard work on me. I call it the power wait, because I don't know about you, Anthony, but I'm always feel like I'm waiting. I'm in this waiting room, just waiting for the next thing to happen, either the next thing to drop, or the thing to skyrocket, or the next thing that God might have for me. And I have
Mhm.
learned that in that waiting period, it's become some of the best times of my life. It's become some of the most productive times in my life, because it's the time I can just not be distracted by my to-do list, and I'm working on my soul and my spirit and my health and my parenting and my sense of mental wellness. I mean,
Mhm.
so a lot of us, quite frankly, are in a holding pattern, a power waiting pattern, and we're bored. And instead of working on ourselves, we're filling it with a bunch of junk, uh,
Yeah.
me included. But those are the best times to really cultivate and work on who you are and what your calling is, so that when
Mhm.
you get the opportunity, you're ready.
Yeah.
You're ready.
It's a big
I
thing.
think you call that the
Big
dark
thing.
work. Is that what you're calling the dark work? I love that.
Dark work is. It is. And it's nothing. It's not, I think there's a weird spin because people go, oh, dark is bad. And I go, no,
Mm-mm.
but dark is where everything kind of flourishes. Plants grow in the dark, things happen.
Mm.
But the idea is that you're preparing behind the scenes so that when the light
Yes.
shines, you look amazing. You're prepared. You're capable when the sun comes out, right? I think so many people, they want to just, I want this. Let me go to the light and do it. And they wonder why they're not able to succeed. Well, because you're going up against a
Or
person
sustain it.
who's been in
Yeah.
the dark, right? They've been toiling this. They've been doing stuff. Because, like, for example, if someone steps in the room with you, there's a ring. They'll call it the ring of business, right? Because you've stepped in that realm,
Right.
and there's somebody you've been in there 2 or 3 decades doing this, and somebody's like, "Well, I just started a business last week, but I read a bunch of books. I know a bunch of things. My mentors." There's a different sense of how you, not in a sense of I don't like the person, but I have done too much work in the last 3 decades to lose to you in this. It's not. It's
Right.
not even about you as a human, me as a human, but that is something you've earned. And a lot of people want to have that mentality and stand next to you on the stage or have a seat at the table next to you, but they're not willing to go to the dark and do that arduous, misunderstood, ridiculed work sometimes that allows them to emerge to be amazing. And I think when we
Well,
can kind of, as a society, go back to that
yeah.
lack of immediate gratification, things change.
Well, I'm going to tell y'all listening, anybody listening that's starting a business or starting, a career trajectory, or have dreams and goals that you're working towards, if you are not ready and you get the opportunity too early and you're not ready, you will fail. You want it in the right time. God's timing is perfect. And I'm a woman of faith too. And I've been so blessed to be able to express my faith, because that's who I really am. And people receive what you really are. They might not agree with you, but they'll
Yep.
accept it. But God's
Mhm.
timing is perfection. And you're like, well, Kim, how do I know what that is? It will be undeniable. Okay. Have you ever done something, Anthony, and you're doing it and you're like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I do this? Should I not do this?
Oh, yeah.
Don't do it.
All the time.
Don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. What's the answer? What's the great thing? God answers prayer either no, not yet, or I've got something better. So I'm just
Mhm.
saying to you, don't try to force something in your life. If you're sitting there and you're in a struggle and you are in a financial struggle, be in the financial struggle and work your way out of it. Put a debt plan in place, get your debt paid off, and focus on the good things that are ahead. You got to do the work in that dark place, like you say, Anthony. But if you don't know what to do and you're confused, don't do anything. Just be still. Just take a beat. Take a beat.
Mhm.
So many people have this immediate toaster oven idea of
Yeah.
success. I've been doing what I've been doing for over 30 years.
Yeah. Why you're
6 years
seasoned.
ago is when it hit it. 6 years ago is when we hit it. Our business hit it in a big way. 6 years
That
ago.
makes sense. That's how it
Now
is.
I'm
And I
gonna
think that
I'm gonna
you,
tell you some numbers. I'm gonna tell you some numbers because I'm proof of it.
all right.
First year we did 1.5 million in sales.
Mhm.
Fifth year we were over 200 million in sales.
Mhm.
Okay, 5 years I went from 1.5 million to 200 million in sales.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the 20 years before that.
That's where it's at.
So when it happens, it don't take long if you're
Mhm.
ready.
Yeah. And that's also part of it too. I love the fact that you talked about it being 20 years, because some people go, man, I've been working hard for 6 months. I've been working hard for 2 years, right? And it's funny you laugh because I think in my head that is because you know what I know inherently, which is just because it was hard and long for you doesn't mean it was long enough and hard enough for your dream.
Right,
And that
right, right, right.
people don't always they don't want to hear that the truth of it. I
Yeah,
go, but just because it's hard for you doesn't mean that's supposed to be yours. It's like Cain and Abel. It's the idea that Cain wanted to give some, not all, but he wanted the same outcome that Abel had.
come
Oh, but Abel
on with
did.
it.
So if you really want that, you got to give it all, and it's going to be more than what you feel like giving. Typically, more years, more time, more relationships, more sacrifice. But that's how it is. And when you get it, though, it's 10 times worth what you thought it was going to be.
Oh my gosh,
And
and faster,
you're 200.
huh?
I said,
What'd
in
you
your
say? I
experience,
couldn't.
200.
Yeah, it's huge. It's more than I ever dreamed. I just wanted to sell one pair of jeans for 7 minutes. But
Yeah.
I say all that to say I don't want to scare people off and be like, oh my God, I've been working. Working doesn't mean you're working out every day. You're drinking your water. You got to do all that. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay fit. You got to stay mentally sharp. You've got to work on your business, but you got to work on you
Mhm.
because what happens when you get the success and you can't handle it because it's
Yeah.
not easy. Walking in your
Mm-mm.
calling is not easy. And walking in your calling might not make a bunch of money. It might be, walking in your calling might be, quitting your job and making a lot less money to be a teacher that you've always wanted to be. I don't know what that is for everyone listening. But when you are walking in that, you have the supernatural energy to do it. I can't tell you. And Anthony, maybe you could speak to it a little bit better than I am. It gives you this energy, this fuel to keep on going.
Yeah. It's a whole different feel. It is because it's like you pour out while getting filled up simultaneously. I'm giving all
Come
my
on with it.
thing, but then I get such a fulfillment that I give more and I fill up more. And I agree. I have this metaphor I talk about like carrying logs. Like a lot of us want to carry 10 logs, which would be for you $200 million. I want to do what Kim has done. I want 200 million. But then what happens, we get tired with two in our arms. I go, well, if you can't hold two, you can't hold 10. So how are you going to give up at two? Then you're never going to see the 10. So you have to normalize it two, and then get three, and it's heavy. Okay, maybe I got to get a friend to help me for a little bit, support, right? Okay, let me go back. I got four, and you got to build up. But that is all hard along the way. But at some point, you'll hold 10, and then if you could hold 10, you go, wow, you make it hold 20. Right? But that's the process of life. Everybody wants to hold 10 right now, and they can't. And if you do get it, you
Right.
can't hold it for long, so you can't attain or sustain. But you're talking to the aspect of yes, once you do. But the cool thing is, if you love holding logs, it's easier to hold the logs. If it makes you feel great, you get energized as you build and build and build. And then it
Right.
becomes effortless effort. I'm doing it. Someone goes, how do you do that? I go, I don't know. It feels easy to me. But for them, it's crazy
Right.
because they're not at the same level of passion or purpose or calling.
Well, and don't focus on the 10 logs, focus on half a log.
There
Accomplish
you go. You
that.
do that too. Yeah,
For
that works.
me, it was we've been chasing our business for a while and it's exhausting, it's tired, but
Yeah.
and get into the half a log. Like people always like, I want this,
Mhm.
I want this, I want this. And that's great. But what can you do and want right now? Like get into it.
Yeah.
Don't just sit here and go, I'm doing this. Get into the moment of it. Like I have to do
Mhm.
that with my mental. Like I'm cooking dinner. I'm like, oh God, I want to cook dinner and I have to clean up and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm gonna get into this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get into this hot dog with coleslaw on it. I'm gonna get into it and
There
I'm
you
gonna make it and I'm gonna put it out there for the family. And you have to train your brain on how to
go. Find the joint.
be get it. Yeah, I don't even know how to say other than just you got to get into what you're doing, not
I
what
get
you
it. I
want to
tell, I
be.
tell them you have to find the joy in it. My wife, I'm like, she has a couple of
Yeah,
properties locally, and so I'm the handyman for them. And there's days I go, I don't want to do it, but then I go, what can I find of joy in this? And I'll find that I just want to hang out with my wife. So I'm like,
right,
cool. I drive with my wife, or I want to listen to an album I just got. Cool. I got a reason to put the album in so I can find
right.
ways to seek joy, and I'll find it.
Yeah.
This has been thoroughly. I didn't realize we're so into time. I've had a blast chat with you. I got two questions.
All
First
right.
question is, where can I send people to find out more about you and about your book?
Okay, you can just go to kimgravel.com on our website. It's all there, and you can find out all about our businesses and the book, everything right there. kimgravel.com.
Awesome. Love it. Last question of the day. It's always the one that I like to see where it goes. But here's the question. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
Oh, what promise did God make to the world when He created you? You're fearfully and wonderfully made, and there's only one of you, only one of your DNA, only one of your calling, and God made you special. So get about doing what he's called you to do.
I love it. I love it. It's a great example of a life well lived and still being lived amazingly. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to this episode. I know you could have been anywhere else, but you're here. Now, here's what I want you to do. Take the information that you heard here and apply something, just one thing. You don't have to do all of it, but find the one thing that just resonated and then do that thing. And if you know someone in your life who you've been trying to get through to, but you can't reach, Kim can reach them. Let her words reach. So all you got to do is share this episode with them and say, hey, I need you to listen to this. That might be the seed that needs to be planted so it can grow to something amazing. Outside of that, go to kimgravel.com to go pick up her new book. It's going to be a fun one. I'm sure you'll enjoy the ride, called Collecting Confidence. And outside of that, as always, make the most of your Oz Shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Kim Gravel signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning into the Oz Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.